Hi there, Zamir from NerdTube. These are my thoughts and spoilers for Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 3. I think this is some of the best Star Wars you're going to be getting out of Disney. A lot of people complain that Star Wars isn't that great, but this show is. I think some people were put off with the child element of the character of Omega, but don't let that be a hindrance to you watching this show, because Star Wars Season 3 of The Bad Batch has ended on an absolute banger, and it's some of the best Star Wars, as I said earlier, you'll ever come across. You will have to watch obviously the first couple of seasons as well as the third season to really appreciate what you get out of season three. But season three, especially the last few episodes, was a real edge of your seat thrill ride. And as I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, wow, this is some really good shit we're getting here. This is amazing Star Wars. I haven't had this feeling for Star Wars the way I'm getting it out of this show in such a long time, and it really made me love it for what I was watching. In season one, obviously we got the Bad Batch. We met them obviously in the Clone Wars, and this being a spin-off of the Clone Wars, and in my opinion, a better show than the Clone Wars. We got to appreciate what the Bad Batch were about regarding their abilities, and the fact that they weren't affected by the chip in their heads that made them, or made all the other clones do Order 66. It didn't affect them, so they were wondering what the hell's going on when Order 66 did happen, because in season one it kind of begins at the beginning of the Empire's rule, and so they defect and they kind of become mercenaries, and the Empires are looking out for them. But Crosshair obviously joins the Empire because a good soldier follows orders, even though he's not affected by the chip in his head. We do get a face turn with Crosshair, though. He does eventually join the Bad Batch when he realizes that the Empire doesn't give a shit about people like him or clones in general. He realizes during the whole course of the season that how expendable the clones are by the Empire, and it pissed him off, and he kind of sees the errors of his ways when he ends up rejoining the Bad Batch again in season three. In season two, obviously we lost Tech. I didn't expect to lose any of the batch, but to lose Tech was a big deal. And at some point, I thought to myself, he might come back, because the way he died, we never saw necessarily a body of him dying. We just saw him dropping through the clouds, and we thought to myself, I thought to myself, maybe there is a way of him coming back. But I'm so glad they didn't. They killed him. They killed off that character, and I was really sad that he was gone, because I like Tech. I like all the characters. I like Hunter. I like Wrecker. I like Echo. I like Crosshair, despite that he turned a bad guy, even though he turned a good guy in season three. I like them all. They're all great characters. These characters, I remember their names. And when you threw Omega in the mix as well, obviously some people initially thought that this was going to be a series that's meant for kids, and I can understand that. This is what Disney do, putting a kid in the mix, even though this kid is working with all these these mercs and stuff like that. And there's this little child, but she's actually older than the batch. She's like 40 years old, but she's been remained as a child for most of her life. Now, things do change for her a little bit, and I will get to that a bit later. But regardless of having this child with these mercs, we do see her get a little bit older, because she's no longer on Camino, and whatever they were doing to her on Camino, they weren't doing to her anymore. So she was aging finally. And she was growing up a little bit, and she wasn't this annoying character. Actually, she was very likable. She wasn't a pain in the ass. She was a bit naive at times, because she tried to see the good in everyone, and some people had no good in them. But regardless, that's what kids are. They tend to need to experience things to understand that who people truly are, and they have to have these sort of negative experiences to learn from that. And being on Camino and being a child, she never really got to learn any of these sort of things, because she was sheltered for most of her life. But once she was with the batch, she started to realize that not everything is what it may seem. And I didn't mind that. That's just somebody growing up with these guys. These guys were older brothers, but they were all like basically surrogate fathers to her as well. And they loved her and they cared for her, and they wanted, and you could see the bondings they had. All these clones, whether they be the batch or other clones that weren't affected by Order 66 or had the chip removed out of their heads and stuff like that. All of these clones were very much united, and you would see that they were trying to help each other and fight for each other. And you got a lot of that in season three. In season three, we kind of realized why the Empire are so interested in Omega, because they want to replicate the Force, and they believe that she might be Force sensitive, and they're using her midichlorians, which are high in Force sensitivity or whatever it may be, and they're trying to replicate that in other clones and all of that. And she does get captured in season 3, and she meets Crosshair again, who's also being held, detained, because obviously he's seen the errors of the Empire's ways and he's not happy with them anymore, so they detain him, and they do both escape their detention, but they end up with the batch again. But not everything works out during the course of the season, and eventually Omega gets taken by the Empire again, and it's up to the batch to save them. And when we get all of those moments, it's pretty cool. But they're not only trying to save Omega, they're trying to destroy this facility. They're trying to rescue the other clones as well. It's really cool, and it's really edge of your seat stuff. I had such a good time watching these final episodes. It really made me realize what quality Star Wars I was watching. Really good Star Wars stuff that that made me grip my seat and made me think, wow, I haven't had this feeling for Star Wars in such a long time. I loved it. It really was great. And we're talking better than The Mandalorian here. I'm really admit, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that season 3 of The Bad Batch is better than all of The Mandalorian, in my opinion. Far better, because of following a whole bunch of people who have characters and personalities and arcs and all of these sort of things. We got far more out of these people than we got from somebody who's wearing a helmet for most of the time, who's very quiet, which is cool in its own right. But in a way, following these guys, there was this more to them. There was more depth, and it wasn't just a cartoon. There was, at times, this was very adult orientated. There was death. There's people getting the shit shot out of them. In one of the last episodes, this creature was like stamping on people and killing them and all of that. I know a lot of the clones, the clone troopers, that is, they all wearing helmets so they can be kind of faceless. But there were some actual characters who we did follow from the very beginning who died, and some of them deserved it as well, which is fine. People from the Empire and all of that. But yeah, this is a cartoon for kids, and we're watching this sort of stuff. It's good shit, as far as I'm concerned. This is great stuff. It's not pulling its punches. Loved it. Really loved it. Made me. I wasn't thinking I was watching a child's show here. I thought I was watching something really good, adult orientated at times, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So when it comes to marking this series, and by the way, before I do, I just want to mention Omega. She does, and spoilers ahead, she does obviously survive all this ordeal. And at the very end of the show, like the last 5 minutes, the epilogue, so to speak, we see her older now. She's grown into a young woman, and she's going to be fighting for the Rebel Alliance. And we see Hunter now, who's a little bit older as well. And he's almost like a father to her, as I said. And so he doesn't want her to fight, but he obviously knows that he can't protect her anymore because she's grown up and she wants to do her own thing. And that was pretty cool. It just brings everything together, so to speak. So yeah, it was a very nice moment, how it ended, and it made you realize that yes, this is the finale. It ends here. There's no more Bad Batch after this. It's a shame, but all good things come to an end. I am going to give Bad Batch season 3. I'm gonna give it a 10. I really am. It went beyond my expectations, and when you go beyond my expectations like this, and I'm waxing very lyrical about this show, I gotta give it the best marks I can give it. It's 10. This is good quality Star Wars. If you're looking for good quality Star Wars, you'll get it with this show. Yes, I do recommend watching season 1 and 2. And you might not appreciate those 2 seasons compared to this one, but once you get to season 3, you'll have a really good time. And season 1 and 2 ain't bad either. They're far from it. They're worth watching. It's really good stuff. Anyway, let me know what you think about the Bad Batch. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel and TikTok and Twitch and Twitter channel you never heard of. We're on all these social media platforms. Take care now. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Bye bye.